Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cyber Hope service here on August 20th. We're getting really close to the end of the month already. Another month almost gone of 2016. But enough about the year. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube for one of the first times, we do have several ways to get a hold of me if you need to ever get a hold of me. One of those is through cyberhope88@gmail.com is an email address for you. Also, we do have a PayPal with a corresponding email address, cyberhope88@gmail.com, if you ever want to give to us. So there is that as well. But after all of that, further ado, let us move forward here. Purpose. Purpose is something we all yearn for. It seems to be a human desire to have meaning in their lives, to have a reason to exist, to have some idea of what they're supposed to do and be. Talk to many people who feel without purpose. I was one of those people many years ago. And when you feel like you have no purpose, there are a couple of things. You feel useless. You feel worthless. You feel like, why am I even here? Why do I even bother? What's the point? Why should I even try? These are the feelings you get. These are the pains you feel. As someone who has felt the lack of purpose. But here I want to talk to you tonight about two things in conjunction together, because one I think talks about the other. For see, you can't have purpose without restoration. It's usually when we're looking for purpose means that we've lost purpose. It's gotten hidden from us. Last week at Norland Church of the Nazarene here, on the physical church nearby, my father preached a message called Tools in the Hands of a Loving Father. It was an interesting take on the sermon, Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God. And my father talked about what it means to find purpose as a tool in God's hands. That we are to be something that God can use, not so much as a fighting ourselves and fighting God and trying to make our own way, because you know what? A lawnmower can never be a weed whacker, and a hedge trimmer can never be a branch trimmer. You see, there is a purpose for everything. There are so many tools we can't even think about it. And that was his point. So if we are to be tools and we are to have purpose, let's first look at our restoration here. I looked at the Greek word for restore, restoration is, let me see if I can pronounce this right, apothekasaitamai. Wait. Apokathistami. That's it. Apokathistami. Shortest definition is I restore or give back. The true definition is I set up again. I restore to its original position or condition. Thus I give back. So restoration is a big theme, isn't it, in the Bible? God restoring his people. Jesus restoring. I want you to think about it. Jesus here is the restoration of the world. This whole meaning in the Greek takes a whole different look at that, doesn't it? See, Adam and Eve were made as partners to live and worship God. They were his friends. They communed with him. They talked with him. They interacted with him. And then they blew it. And they were cast away from God's side. So Jesus' restoration is restoring the original position or condition of a person. So let's look at a couple of men who were restored. Two very famous men, you'll know them both. First one is Peter. In John chapter 21, verses 15 through 19, we see when they had finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? He said to him, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. He said to him, feed my lambs. And then said to him a second time, Simon, son of John, do you love me? He said to him, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. He said, then tend my sheep. He said to him the third time, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter was distressed that he had said to him a third time, do you love me? And he said to him, Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you. Jesus said to him, feed my sheep. I tell you the truth. When you were younger, you used to dress yourself and go where you wanted. But when you grow old, you will stretch out your hands and someone else will dress you and lead you where you do not want to go. He said this, signifying by which kind of death he would glorify God. When he had said this, he said to him, follow me. This is a big restoration of Peter. Right after Jesus has been resurrected, or sometime after in the 40 days that Jesus was on earth with everybody, at some point he visits Peter while they're trying to fish. And Peter at this point has decided he is a horrible apostle. He's done terrible things. And he's just not going to do that life anymore. He's going to go back to fishing that he knows, and he's just going to do that. He sees Jesus walking along the shore, and they've been fishing all night, and they see a man. They'll realize it's Jesus. They see a man. He says, cast your nets on the other side, and so they do, and voila, there's a ton of fish in their nets. They realize it's Jesus, and they row as fast as they can, and they get back, and Jesus is cooking breakfast. And here he challenges Peter on 3 different occasions. Do you love me? It was shown in 3 different, and all 3 of these, Jesus uses, the first 2 uses the word for brotherly love, and then the last one is agape, the form of godly love, or true love. But Peter, having denied Jesus 3 times, is now restored by saying to God, to Jesus 3 times, you know that I love you. Peter is creating a world, or Jesus is creating a world where this man is restored. So that when the time for the Holy Spirit is to come, he is ready. He's prepared. Thus, Peter has been restored. Now, there is a second man. This man is also well known, and one that was a little surprising to the people of the time. Meanwhile, Saul was still breathing out murderous threats against the Lord's disciples. He went to the high priest and asked him for letters to the synagogues in Damascus, so that if he found any there who belonged to the way, which is what they call the Christians, the way, whether men or women, he might have to take them as prisoners to Jerusalem. As he neared Damascus on his journey, suddenly a light from heaven flashed around him. He fell to the ground and heard a voice say to him, Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me? Who are you? Lord, Saul asked. I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting, he replied. Now get up and go into the city, and you will be told what you must do. The men traveling with Saul stood there speechless. They heard the sound, but did not see anyone. Later on in that chapter, we see that Paul goes on to Damascus, blind now from his encounter with Jesus, and he gets there, and there is another man, a Christian, who, a member of the way, who is called by God to go and anoint Saul. And this man knows who Saul is. And he knows that Saul has been part of a destruction of the church leading up to this point. He knows what is going on. He knows what's happening. But God tells him he must go. And when he does anoint Paul. He becomes Saul. He changes his name at that point to Paul. And becomes one of the leading disciples in the missionary front of the way. A lot of the Bible is taken from his writings. Such a restoration of a man who went from one extreme to another, moved to his original position. See, Paul was a leader of the synagogue. He was a priest, a Pharisee, who was moved to his original position of teaching, but in the right way. His conversion, his restoration was so dramatic and powerful that many Christians for a long time distrusted him, thinking he was just trying to infiltrate their ranks. He did eventually win them over, but it took a little while. But I want to talk to you about restoring a little bit more. I found this story online. I really like it. It's about the church, about what the church means. Jim Corley met his friend Alex at the dealership where Alex worked. Jim, I feel like a hypocrite every time I go to church because I fail to live for Christ so often. Alex, what do you call this part of the dealership? Jim asked, nodding to the area outside his cubicle. You mean the showroom? Yes. What's behind the showroom, past the parts counter? The service department, Alex said confidently. What if I told you I didn't want to bring my car to the service department because it was running rough? Jim asked. That would be crazy. That's the whole point of service departments, to fix cars that aren't running right. You're absolutely right, Jim replied. Now let's get back to our initial conversation. Instead of thinking of church as a showroom, where image is everything, start thinking of it as God's service department. Helping people get back in running order with God is what the church is all about. See, the church is about restoration. It's about restoring ourselves before the Father every single time we enter. It's about bringing ourselves before Him. Even in this environment, even on this online, we can bow ourselves before God because it's not about image. We don't even see each other. You guys see me. But I'll tell you something, that means it's not about the image. It's about the restoration of our souls before the Father. That, my friends, is what church is all about and what it's always been. It is about the restoration. But I told you this tonight that there was going to be more than just restoration. Now we go on to purpose. There is a purpose in our lives, and we all strive for it. We all look for it daily. In the Greek, hina is for purpose, which is looking to aim an intended result in order that. It's a way of expressing purpose in Greek. It's a comparative example of plain infinitive. The hina, which is used in the scripture, basically means an active purpose. A intended movement towards a goal. And purpose is something that we strive for today, is it not? We're constantly trying to find purpose in our lives. We look in businesses, we look at work, at spouses, at children, at hobbies. Maybe I'll get a girlfriend, I'll be happy. Maybe I'll buy that game, I'll be happy. Maybe I'll get that new computer, I'll be happy. Maybe I'll get that dog, I'll finally be happy. Maybe I'll get that house, I'll finally be happy. Maybe when we finally get more money, I'll be happy. When is it enough? The purposes that we focus on in this world, while not always bad, will always lead us to more. It never becomes enough. It's never enough for us. And a lot of times we end up wallowing in the pity, in the pain of not achieving what we set out to do. For the world measures purpose on achievement. They measure purpose on exactly what you can see and measure. Statistics and books and all these other numbers and stuff. I run into this at work. I'm always told I'm great on the phones. I'm wonderful at it. But I'm measured by a number system that does not match that quality. On the numbers scorecard, I'm like a 4 usually out of 10. I should be a 10 out of 10. Because I'm told by every manager, every leader, I sound fantastic on the phones. I do a great job. I'm wonderful with the customers. I'm knowledgeable. So I'm sitting there thinking, why am I always a 4? Because my measurement, like the world's measurement, does not consist of what is actually given to me. My purpose is to be a customer service representative, to take care of the person, to treat them like a human being, to fix their issues, and to fix them in a way that they feel comfortable and safe. But my numbers are based on speed and overall satisfaction. So those numbers do not match that knowledge base. They don't score me on how great I sound on the phone. Take that and apply it to the world. And we're constantly looking at, well, that guy doesn't have something. Or, he must be terrible because he doesn't have this. And we judge the person's purpose. And we build our own purpose of what the world says is right. Until we're found ourselves wallowing and struggling and can't seem to get out. Until when the real purpose hits us in the face, when we finally have God throw it in our face, we're not prepared. We've gone so long in this state of misery and constantly working and working and working that we have missed it now. Give you an example. I found this story online and it's a little heart-wrenching, but it is a beautiful story. It's very human. I'll start here. It's very human to begin looking for something and then forget what you're looking for. Tennessee Williams tells a story of someone who forgot. The story of Jacob Brodsky, a shy Russian Jew whose father owned a bookstore. The older Brodsky wanted his son to go to college. The boy, on the other hand, desired nothing but to marry Lila, his childhood sweetheart, a French girl as effusive, vital, and ambitious as he was contemplative and retiring. A couple of months after young Brodsky went to college, his father fell ill and died. His son returned home, buried his father, married his love. Then the couple moved into the apartment above the bookstore, and Brodsky took over its management. The life of books fit him perfectly, but it cramped her. She wanted adventure, and she found it, she thought. She met an agent who praised her beautiful singing voice and enticed her to tour Europe with a vaudeville company. Brodsky was devastated. At their parting, he reached into his pocket and handed her the key to the front door of the bookstore. You better keep this, he told her, because you will want it someday. Your love is not so much less than mine that you can get away from it. You will come back sometime, and I will be waiting. She kissed him and left. To escape the pain he felt, Brodsky withdrew back deep into the bookstore and took it to reading as someone else might have taken to drinking. He spoke little, did little, and could most times be found at the large desk near the rear of the shop, immersed in his books while he waited for his love to return. Nearly 15 years after they parted at Christmas time, she did return. But when Brodsky rose from his reading desk that had been his place of escape for all that time, he did not take the love of his life for more than an ordinary customer. Do you want a book? He asked. They didn't recognize or startle her, but she gained possession of herself and replied, I want a book, but I've forgotten the name of it. Then she told him a story of childhood sweethearts, a story of a newly married couple who lived in an apartment above a bookstore, a story of a young, ambitious wife who left a secret career, who enjoyed great success, but could never relinquish the key her husband gave her when they parted. She told him that the story she thought would bring him to himself, but his face showed no recognition. Gradually she realized that he had lost touch with his heart's desire, That he no longer knew the purpose of his waiting and grieving, that now all he remembered was the waiting and grieving itself. You must remember the story of Leah and Jacob. After a long, bewildered pause, he said, there is something familiar about the story. I think I've read it somewhere. It comes to me that it is something by Tolstoy. Dropping the key, she fled the shop. And Brodsky returned to his desk, to his reading, unaware that the love he had waited for had come and gone. Tennessee Williams' 1931 story is something by Tolstoy. Reminds me how easy it is to miss love when it comes. Either something so distracts us, or we have so completely lost what we are or what we care about that we cannot recognize our heart's desire. See, this man lost sight of his purpose. He lost sight of the purposes of his pain, of his suffering, to the point where the thing he was suffering over and waiting for had come and he'd missed it. So let me ask you this, friends. Are you stuck in your pain? Have you gotten to a point in your life where you are so withered and beaten and destroyed that if your purpose from God were to slap you in the face, you'd miss it? You would let it walk by you. Because you become so accustomed to the pain. You become so accustomed to the mediocrity. But I'll tell you something, friends. The good news is that restoration is still available. Purpose is still available. Unlike this poor man, whose purpose ran from him when she realized she did not notice him. God is not going to run. He will stand there with that key all eternity if he must. He will stand there until you realize or you die that your purpose is right here, right now. It's tough, I know. I went through these struggles of feeling like I didn't have a purpose anymore. Back in 2009, when I came home with a young wife of 4 or 5 months, looking at a world where I didn't have a job, I had no prospects, I was having horrible pain, I had to quit working. My poor wife had to try to take it up, and we were living with family. And I was looking at it going, God, I'm going through school for purposes to become a pastor, and you can't even show me it anymore. I can't even leave a recliner. How in the world am I supposed to be a pastor when I spend 60% of my day sleeping? Because it's the only way I can escape the pain. But I'll tell you something, friends. In the Easter of 2013, as I sat there in pain that morning and didn't go to church, I want to tell you something. I felt the Lord's hand upon me, and I felt him talking to me. And my purpose, this church, was born from that slap in the face. It's been rough. And there have been times where I haven't known where to turn except to keep plugging along and hope that I can figure it out. But I'll tell you something, this church is 3 years strong and it's not going anywhere. We are moving. God is moving through this new avenue, through this new place. Because he showed me purpose. Paul says in 2 Timothy, I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, but the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day, and not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearing. Paul found his purpose. He ran that race. He followed God's will, and now he will reap the reward. So let me ask you, friends. Have you found your purpose? It's not too late. It's not all over. There is still time to find your purpose. There is still time to make it your own. For God's purpose can become our purpose. So tonight, before you go to bed, sit quietly and just ask God, what is my purpose? It may not be pastoring. It may not be ministry. But could your purpose be reaching out to friends and coworkers? Could your purpose just simply being kind to those around you with the gifts you have? These are the things that draw purpose. So find yours. You too will feel the joy of Christ. And the joy in your life as you move forward. So let me end with this. May the God of peace that surpasses all understanding give you rest for the night, joy for the morning, and hope for the day. Thank you, and God bless.